You ready?
I am ready.
All right, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. John Peckman Podcast. I'm John Peckman. We're here, Connecticut Valley School of Music and Dance Podcast Studio, Portland, Connecticut. Come over the bridge, start looking left. If you're watching us on YouTube by any chance, like and subscribe. You know what I'm saying? And we are here today with a new friend. We've crossed paths, kinda.
Yeah.
But never actually got in the room together and doing this. Mr. Tom Guerra.
Yes.
That's him. Guitar player, singer, songwriter.
Yeah.
Writer.
Thanks for having me, John.
Oh, of course.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Absolutely. So you're from where?
Born in Hartford.
Okay.
Grew up, went to high school in Hartford. I've lived east of the river in Glastonbury for a long time now, about 3 decades.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, at least it wasn't 30 years.
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, it was a little longer, I think, 32. So, yeah.
Cool. All right. So do you want to tell us what you're doing now?
Sure.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You know, and then we'll kind of go back to how it all starts.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So right now I'm, pretty much writing on a daily basis, music. And as we were also talking, I write for a guitar magazine called Vintage Guitar Magazine.
Cool.
And, that's been initially, I've been doing that for 2 decades now, a little over that, 2 decades. And,
Wow.
And started doing a lot of pieces on guitar players that I knew and was friends with and ultimately became friends with. And then the last couple of years, I've been doing a lot of gear reviews, too. So that's kind of cool.
Cool.
So, yeah.
How did that start?
Well, that started because in the 90s, I was in a blues band, and we were playing a lot of gigs, and I was doing a couple gigs opening for Ronnie Earl. And I was talking to a guy who worked for the magazine, and he's like, "Hey, I heard you're playing with Ronnie Earl." I said, "Yeah." I said, "We're opening for him." He goes, "Would you be interested in interviewing him?" I said,
Oh.
"Sure." Very approachable. He was he was playing with J-Mo at the time, and I knew both of those guys pretty well, and set it up. And that was, I think, 97. I did my first interview for Vintage, and then I started doing something pretty much on a regular basis ever since.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep, that was fun.
So it went well, and they were like, "Hey,
It went well, and I think because I had played with him, and I mean, we were in between breaks, we were talking about his gear, his super reverb, and his, he had a vibratone he was bringing out at the time, and his Strats. One of them was called Mahalia. So I mean, I knew all this stuff about him.
Yeah, right. Just getting it in order.
Yeah, and I think my spin has always been, give these guys some reverence that they deserve, but also let's talk about gear. What do you do? And a lot of these guys are not like really nutty about gear like Eric Johnson, who knows the voltage of his batteries.
Oh, really? Okay.
They're like, yeah, I got a 60-something Strat. I got it, and it's a great sounding guitar. That's all they know. What kind of strings do you use? Silver ones.
Yeah, right.
So
where does Ronnie Earl fall in that spectrum?
He
Does he know the voltage?
He does not know the voltage, but he's very great set of ears on him. Great player.
Well, yeah,
wicked, and just knows what he likes, knows what sounds good to him. And a friend of mine for many, many years was his bass player, Jim Meridian. And Jim passed a couple years ago, and Jim was his guitar tech too.
Okay.
That's how Jim knew him initially, and Jim was my guitar tech for many, many years.
Oh,
so
cool.
That's kind of how we met initially.
So the interview must have went well, because then it became a thing.
Yeah, that went really well. It's still out there on I have a website, tomguerra.com, and I think it's on Vintages as well. So I got a whole bunch of stuff on my website. I got my music and some of the interviews I've done, and lots of hype, over the years, and
That's
like
all right.
my online scrapbook or whatever,
Why not?
Yeah.
Got to do it. Might as well.
Yeah.
So how did it all start for you?
Oh, man. It all started for me in terms of getting into music.
Yeah.
I was really fortunate. I am really fortunate because I have 2 parents that were very, very young when I was born.
Okay.
And my dad was really into the Beatles.
Oh, nice.
And some of my first memories as like a 4-year-old kid was sitting on his lap listening to Sgt. Pepper's and looking at the album.
Sure.
And I really, really loved the Beatles, got into the Beatles. And the first album I ever bought, or my grandmother bought it to me, my brother and I would con my grandmother, "Hey, Grandma, can we go to the mall?" Which meant, "Can you buy us stuff?"
Yeah.
and I got Revolver, and, the original version of Revolver, the American version of Revolver, and
without Dr. Robert.
Right. The next album I got was Yesterday and Today, which had Dr. Robert on it.
Yep.
But oh my God! And to this day, I know you ask about Desert Island albums, and that if I changed like every hour what my favorite album is.
Yeah, me
but
too.
At this second, it's probably Revolver too.
Yeah. I was just I had having this experience lately. I mean, I do this all the time, but lately I've been doing it. I have like a portable record player in my bedroom. So like when I'm getting ready, and I have a box of Beatles, the Parlophone. My parents got it at a tag sale years ago, but it's nice to have everything in one place.
Wow, yeah.
So I've been like over the last however many weeks, just put on while I'm getting ready here, a track at a time, I'm going in order. Yeah. And it's funny because right when I get to Help, I'm kind of like, I'm getting done with this.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Revolver's like a corner.
Yeah, or Rubber Soul too. Before
that's what I mean. Rubber Soul's a corner. And then once you hit Revolver, there's not even a trace.
No.
Everything is Revolver's like a different band.
It's amazing because, for all intents and purposes, from America's perspective, they were around for 5.5 years.
It's crazy.
Bands today wait 5.5 years between albums.
Hard to believe. Well, that's what I had to tell myself. I go, dude, they made what's Help like the fifth. I'm like, they made 5 albums in a year and a half.
Yep.
It's just like, no problem.
And a lot of those bands were like that. And I'm really into Free. And
nice.
And by the time these guys were like 18 years old, they had 3 albums out.
So
and
crazy.
they were being pushed, and it didn't end well for one of them. As a result. So.
Huh. Wow. So
Beatles, and then really just everything was about music for me as a kid. I played glockenspiel in my elementary school band, played some piano, and always wanted to sing, but was very, very afraid, timid, and I had some health issues. I had epilepsy as a kid, so that kind of, on one end, I think, I think my brain is wired a little differently, especially after reading Dr. Oliver Sacks' book, Musicophilia. I'm like, this is me. This is me.
Interesting.
Because he talks about different stimuli, different way brains react.
I got to write that down.
It's a fantastic book. So,
cool.
But anyway, by the time I was in 7th grade, I actually was like really into rock and roll music, and I was drawing guitars, and I'm like, I gotta build a guitar. So my mother had this acoustic. It was an old Silvertone acoustic, and one day mysteriously the neck came off, but it was like the next day that I built the body that the neck fit on. So I made this guitar, and it was like with a piece of brass for the bridge. The intonation was terrible, and I was playing that for a while, and I had a friend of mine visit me, and he's like, hey man, he goes, this was a friend of a friend, but this is one of those kindness of strangers stories. His parents owned the Stafford Springs Motor Speedway, a very wealthy family, and I'd only met this guy a couple times before because he was a friend of a friend. He goes, hey, that's really impressive, you built your own guitar. He goes, hey, I got a Gibson SG, do you want it?
You're like, no.
I said I can't afford that. He goes, no, do you want, I'm going to give this to you.
Nice.
So I went.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. So I went down to a place called John Turcotte Music in West Hartford.
Dave is nodding, which means it did exist because he knows everything.
Yeah, and I bought a used Ampeg VT40, which, again, one of those lucky situations. It was the Stones practice amp that they were using. And, I mean, you plugged the Gibson into this thing, it was like instant Love You Live. I mean, it sounded just like that. So the sound made me want to get better.
Yeah.
Started a band, and by that point I was a freshman in high school, and was in a band for all my 4 years of high school called Pyramid, and we played all around the high schools and stuff in Newington and Wethersfield, and got a good following. We were smart because we got all these bumper stickers, and we plastered them on every stop sign in town. And
why not?
And then when I graduated high school, I went to college and started a band pretty much immediately up there. And
where was that?
That was Eastern Connecticut.
Okay.
Which is the home of the Shaboo.
Okay.
So right after I got up there, I I answered an ad for a guitar player in a band, and the band was formerly known as Avalanche, and they were a real big deal.
Oh, yeah.
In the late 70s, the Easton brothers, Mark and Barry Easton,
Yeah.
Charles Calmise was the bass player,
Okay.
and Michael Foster was the other guitar player. Well, they had broken up. They had gotten back together, and a good friend of mine, Scott Lawson Pomeroy, who he and I became singer and songwriter buddies in the Mambo Sons years later, he got into this band, and he's like, you should audition for this guitar player role. Because the other guitar player was in the hospital. He had some pretty serious issues, and I got the gig. Charles Calmise and I became fast friends, and Charles was, one of my mentors and one of my great influences. And he was the bass player for Muddy Waters and James Cotton.
Right.
And he's on the Hard Again album, which to me is like one of my blues desert island albums.
Sure.
And we became kind of idiot drinking buddies and doing all sorts of stupid stuff.
Sure.
And but he was a huge influence and a huge supporter and really, really encouraging. So when Mark Easton, the guy who was in the hospital, got out of the hospital, he was in rehab, and I'm not telling any tales out of school because this is pretty much in his bio.
Sure.
I figured I just lost my gig, but he's like, no, we should play together, 2 guitars.
Oh.
So I was doing a lot of slide, and he was really, again, very encouraging, and that was great playing with those guys. And Charles was just like the most steady, blues, funk, rock bass player, and just taught me a lot about what not to play and that type of thing. So that band kind of, because the brothers were not getting along, Mark and Barry, too well, that kind of blew up. And then I started a band called the Dirty Bones Band.
Okay.
And that band we played all around New England colleges throughout the 80s. And that was a lot of original rock and roll music, but also, 5 really, really different people. Like our singer was a biker, and, I was kind of the guitar player, music guy, and it was a great band, and the drummer was totally an untrained drummer, but had one of the best grooves I've ever played with. His name is Dino Don Chase. Left the band to become a mailman, and that's where he spent his life.
Probably better off.
probably was, but we got back together in on our 30th anniversary, which was I think 2013. We were funding a scholarship for our old friend who I think grew up in your hometown, Wallingford, right? Joe Polito. He went to Sheehan High, and he had passed away in a car accident in 90. He was our manager and roadie and security guy and best friend, and Joe and I were very tight, and he passed away in 1989.
Oh, okay. I didn't know him.
Yeah, no, he was older than you because he was my age, but so that kind of took me up until the end of the 80s, and then in the 90s I started really playing a lot of blues and R&B stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
When did the songwriting, was that all part of it?
It was like I always kind of knew. Guitar players are such a strange bunch, and I always kind of wanted to play a specific style, but I was not ever one of these guitar players that was like the competitive guitar player. I just wanted to play. I loved like Robbie Robertson and the band, and people who just play.
Right, so you're not the guitar hero.
Not the guitar hero thing.
Cutting heads or something.
Yeah, I can play. I can hold my own as far as that's concerned. But I just never was. It was never about that to me, and that's why, like, if I'm listening to the blues, I'll listen to the real first generation blues guys versus kind of the guy, and I admire the guys, Michael Bloomfield and Clapton and those guys who came later and sort of introduced America to the blues. A lot of the British guys did that too, and they did it really well. But to me, I'll always go back to B.B. King, Albert King, Freddie King.
Sure.
Huge Freddie King fan. Nice. Howlin' Wolf. I've been lucky over the years to acquire one of Howlin' Wolf's guitars.
Whoa,
so
that's heavy.
That's a cool thing. So that's That's
cool.
That's something nobody was supposed to know about until they did.
Until you just said it.
No. It's
and your address is where is it that you said?
Right.
Exactly. Wow, that's cool.
But in the 90s, I first thing I did after the Dirty Bones broke up was I wanted to put together a bigger band, and I had a couple horn players. I had Doug Jones and Terry Sanger.
Oh yeah, both in the same band.
Well, they would alternate gigs.
Okay.
But I had Martin Clark, who was a great singer. He played with the Hornets later on after that band. I think a friend of yours, I sort of discovered this woman who was beautiful and a great singer, and she literally went from my band, the Producers, to 8 to the Bar. Suzanne.
Oh,
Zanny Gaudet.
Wow.
Yep.
I didn't know you knew Zanny.
I kind of gave Zanny her first gig.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh wow.
Yep. So she was a great friend of mine, and we later on I wrote a song called Blues for Zanny that was on the.
I didn't know that.
Song. Yeah.
Quick Zanny story.
Yeah.
Zanny's no longer with us. Very sad. So we were on the road. I don't know if this is the Zanny you knew. We didn't know her that well. So she was in the band.
She was in the band, and she was younger than everybody. And she was at that point she had lost a lot of weight, very very thin. You know.
Yeah. When I knew her, she was. So she had cancer, survived, and then unfortunately later succumbed. But we were on the road, 8 to the Bar. We were in Florida.
Yeah.
All in a motel room, and we're all kind of trapped all day. Like there was only one car, and someone else had it.
Yeah.
And a few of us are sitting around the pool, and Zanny's there, and we're like on the Miracle Mile kind of. We're like just in a Motel 6, and there's all kinds of stuff, and we're looking, and there's like a thing across the street, kind of on the horizon, this big giant structure, and we're just kind of looking. Then we go, is there someone on top of that? And then we're like, oh, that's some kind of ride, like it's like a ride. We're like, oh, it looks like there's an amusement park or something over there.
Yeah.
So we're just sitting there, we're slowly figuring it out, and then you see that there's someone being pulled, and then I realize it's like an amusement park ride. It's like a giant swing.
Yep.
There was lights on the top, so a plane wouldn't hit it, and they drag you up, and then let you go, and you swing like that. And we're all sitting there going, who in the hell would do that? That's crazy. Zanny goes, I'll do that. And we're like, what? She's like, I'll do that. So we all went over, and Cynthia was like, I'll pay for it.
Yep.
So we all went over and watched her.
Fearless.
Yep. Yeah, and she's like, I almost died of cancer. I don't care.
Right, exactly.
I'll do anything.
Exactly.
So she was our hero. We stood there, and they towed her up until she was like, a speck.
Yep.
And then came flying right by us going, I love this. It was so funny. That was Zanny.
That was
crazy.
Great.
She was really cool.
And later on in the I think it was 99 when I got married, I had Colin and 8 to the Bar, and Zanny was still with them at that point, and they played my wedding. So that was cool.
Was I there?
Tommy was the guitar player because I sat in with him, but I don't
Wow.
know. It was in Longmeadow, Mass. I don't know if that.
God only knows.
It was September 11th, 1999. More information.
Oh,
I'm putting
wow.
out there, yeah. So
I might not have been.
yeah,
but yeah.
So
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So then after that, I started a band with a guy by the name of Eddie Bradley, great guitar player.
Yep.
And it was called the Del Reys, and we played pretty much throughout the 90s. A lot of straightforward blues stuff. And I loved playing with Eddie, and then in between that time, I started playing a little bit with Mark Malucci in his band. He goes by Mark Nomad. In fact,
he was here last week.
He was, and Mark was a guy, I saw him when I was a kid. I saw his band Little Village in a high school, and he and Johnny Frizzell, and I ended up playing with both of those guys over the years, and it was like, but Mark and I are still tight, and
cool.
And
well, good, and this all ties in.
Yeah, really good guy, great guy. He's doing a lot of not musical writing, but he's doing like these blues bios now, stuff. Yeah,
that's so cool.
So, really, but great guy.
Yeah,
and I loved playing with him because
I know it's funny because you say all this. I must have just missed you somehow.
Well, I played one or two gigs with you too.
Oops. Oh no.
I'm like the forgettable guy, But
no, I'm starting to forget things. That's what makes me nervous.
I think we played. There was it was in Hartford, and it used to be the Spaghetti Warehouse, and then they changed it to a brewery, like over by the West Hartford side. We had played some gigs there, and I thought you were the drummer, and I know Tracy a couple times was the drummer when I played with Mark as well. Tracy Sherman, I think, was.
I don't know him.
Okay. and then
Sorry.
that's
It's not you.
Yeah.
I just, as I get older, I have people go, man, you don't remember that time? No, I
know.
don't know.
I know. I remember all these people just because it was. I think some of my favorite gigs were not necessarily with my own band,
Sure.
But just like, hey, you want to, we got an opening.
Yeah.
I played with a band called Rhythm Stew. I was like their substitute guitar player from Eastern Connecticut. Great R&B band, and I loved playing with those guys. And
cool.
I was kind of like a band whore in those days.
Yeah.
You know?
We all were.
We all were, you know. And
now I'm just a whore.
a man whore.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
But something cool but really, really stupid happened at the end of the 90s or late 90s, and Governor Rowland at the time decided that he really liked our band, the Reys.
Oh, wow.
And the next thing you know, we were doing all these gigs for Governor Rowland.
Oh, wow. Oh.
And he's like, if you
That's
guys
cool.
do a fundraising CD for me, you
don't have to pay taxes anymore ever.
He said, I'll give you a hot tub, right?
Yeah.
But it worked out well because I said, look, I'll do this, I'll produce the CD, but I kind of want this, and this. And I was able to pretty much start my own studio after that.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's
so
cool.
it was kind of like, but my friends were like, man, you sold out, you bastard, this and that. But later on, after he got arrested, they told me I had street cred now.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Wow.
But after
That's wild.
After I got that whole thing together, I said, okay, I want to do my own music proper now. And this is when the Mambo Sons got together.
Okay.
And I had been working on original music with my friend Scott Lawson Pomeroy, who now he's played for years with Orange Crush. He's a full-time musician now with the Savage Brothers. He's the bass player, singer.
Oh, okay.
Great voice. He's excellent singer, really immensely talented guy. So he and I started working on these songs.
Yeah.
And then Rick Derringer got involved, and he helped us produce it. And Vic Steffens was involved, helped us mix it. And Kenny Aronson, who's now my kind of sparring partner in terms of the stuff I write, was the bass player on that, and Mike Hayden and Joe Lemieux were the drummers on that. And so we got the album out, and it was like it was fun, really good. I wish we had kind of pumped it up a little bit, but I was kind of anti, crushing, super compressing stuff. But we knew we were going to do another one. So right around that time, we got contacted by this small label from Portland, Oregon called Omnicide Records.
Okay.
It was a death metal label. We were like the furthest thing from death metal, but the guy loved this album.
Hey.
And he had heard it because of the Derringer thing. He was a big Derringer fan.
I see.
And he's like, hey, I can fund you guys. And he gave us like a 3-album deal. And it was awesome. And I mean, nobody really made any money, but he helped us distribute it. Got it in, got us airplay.
And you did this all at your place?
We ended up doing 4 CDs in total, 4 albums in total. I did them in various places where I was living. In the last one we did in the existing studio that I have, and that was a double album.
Oh, wow.
That we did in 2009, and we called that Heavy Days. And nobody does double albums anymore.
Right.
And there's a reason for it too, because I swear to God, I mean, I was like ragged.
Oh, really?
I mean, you're exhausted. I mean,
But you couldn't stop writing.
Well, I could stop. I wasn't. I didn't want to stop.
Did you plan
writing.
to do a double, or it just became a double?
Well, we kept like, well, how about this one? I like that. Let's do that. How
Yeah,
about this
yeah,
one?
yeah,
And
yeah.
Scott would do one, and I would do one, and but it got to the point where, I mean, we were like 2 bands, because at this point in time we were playing all over in New England initially, but year after year there were like fewer places that allowed original music. So like, hey, can you guys do some covers? So we ended up, after Heavy Days was released, sadly Marco, who owned the label and was sober, he had been sober for a long time, he got hit by a drunk driver and passed away, and that was the end of the label. That was the end of obviously Marco, and kind of from an original music perspective, it was the end of the band too. I mean, we still, to this day, we'll still get together and play.
Right, but you couldn't sustain it.
It got really fragmented too.
Yeah.
So I I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna try doing my own thing, and I in 2014 I came out with my first solo album, which was called All of the Above, and really happy with that in terms of song wise and sound wise too. It was sonically, I kind of took my time getting different guitar sounds and stuff.
Yep.
And I had been practicing singing, and we're kind of our limitations are sort of something that forms our style, and
Sure.
from a singing perspective, I
Yep.
mean, I kind of come out somewhere between Ronnie Wood and Bob Dylan or something.
Oh, wow.
It's,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
I'm probably I mean that as sort of a joke. I love both of those guys, but I hear somebody like a Paul Rogers sing it, or Freddie Mercury, and they're like,
Yeah, sure.
why do I even bother? But you do it, and you got to do it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm right there with you. I hear you. Yeah. So, no more? But you Mambo Sons still play?
Yeah, we still play, and we've played some great shows over the years with different people, like Jack Sani is a friend of the band, and he a couple years back said, I'm going to be staying in Hartford actually in Middletown for a while. He's like, let's get a gig together. So we got
Is that the dude that was in Dire Straits?
Yeah,
Yep.
So we did
kid.
that, and we had a great time. And Jack's he's a mensch. He's a great guy.
Cool.
He's got his own internet radio station, and he's
cool.
plays some great stuff.
Oh, nice.
He's down in Mississippi or Alabama, one of those down.
But he's from Connecticut, right?
From Pennsylvania, but moved up here.
Okay.
And
so I remember that was the big deal when I was
yeah,
younger.
yeah. And he had actually kind of met Knopfler he was working at I think it was Rudy's in New York City, in the guitar store, and he met Knopfler and kind of befriended Knopfler, and Knopfler said, "Hey, we need a guitar player. Are you up for it?" And
wow. Hey,
kind of
off you go.
Yeah, and next thing you know, he's on the Brothers in Arms album and
Right,
tour.
Right.
know?
Yep. That's what I remember.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
wow, that's cool.
So So since 2014, every 2 years, I put out a solo album, and it's a lot of work, and then you got to promote the thing, and you get sick of hearing yourself talk, but you got to do that. I mean, it's very important, and you got to get reviewed, and you got to, if you want to build any type of buzz or whatever, and so they're all on, Apple Music and Spotify now too, but we're still putting out physical CDs, and I don't know, the next one will be 2021, and I've got about 8 or 9 songs done for that one already, and working on a couple other things. Some of them are like, wow, this is the best thing I've ever done.
Oh wow,
and
so you're finally getting there.
I finally feel like, this is really good, and of course I haven't gotten to the mixing stage where you got to do it 300 times and you hate everything by that time you're done with that.
Yeah,
but I got a duet with John Butcher on this one.
Oh wow.
And he's played on my last couple of albums. I played on his last album, not his last one, the one before this. He's somebody I've always admired as a guitar player and singer. And
how'd you hook up with him?
I hooked up with him because I interviewed him for Vintage.
Oh, I see.
Like maybe 6, 7 years ago, and he's like, "Hey, I was checking out your music. I like this." It was after the first album, so it was 2014, I think. And I said, "Hey, we should do something together at some point." He's like, "Yeah, let's do it." So I did a song off of an album called American Garden that came out in 2018. And he played lead guitar on it. It was called Blood on the New Rising Sun. And I was watching the news one morning, and there was this big news story about the Charlottesville riots, and it kind of pissed me off. So I wrote that song about it, and it's we're freaking all Americans here,
Yeah, I know.
And he's like, I want to play on this song because I like the song, but I also like the lyrics of this. So he plays some killer guitar playing on that, and then I ended up playing on his album 360 Degrees on a song called Uncle Sam's Blues. And then on this thing that I'm going to be releasing next year, I've got a song called California's Got to My Girl. And I sang the whole thing. I recorded it, and Kenny Aronson is playing some really cool string parts and some bass parts on it. And everything clicking well, and I'm like, John should sing this song.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'll sing the song. So
Hey,
he
that's
sang
cool.
the song, and I'm like, I want to sing some of that song. So he ended up taking, I think, the first verse, I got the second, and then we split the last verse. And I'm really excited about this.
Why not?
Sounds good. Yeah. It's got a lot of, it's studio song, so there's a lot of different harmonies and parts in it and everything. But
that's kind of wild. So you're like writing songs with some of your heroes. I guess.
Well, I wrote in 2017. My friend Kenny Aronson, who's for many years has been the bass player for the Yardbirds.
Okay.
And he's been with everybody. He's been with starting Hall & Oates, Dylan, Derringer, Billy Idol, Brian Setzer. He's a heavy hitter. Crazy stuff. And he called me one night. He goes, hey, the Yardbirds are doing an original album. And he's like, I'm not really a writer, but he's like, I think you and I can collaborate on this.
Hey.
I'm like, I'm there, man.
Great, yeah.
So we wrote 5 tunes, and this was like kind of like I could taste it. I was writing charts out for the band, and then Kenny, I get some texts from Kenny that were just like he was not happy, and I'm like, called him, what's going on? He goes, they just pulled the plug on the album. I'm like, mother, yeah. So I ended up taking 3 of those songs and putting them on my American Garden album. And if you hear a couple of these songs, you're like, yeah, it sounds like the Yardbirds.
I see.
I got Gary Siegel playing harp on one song, and it sounds like a Yardbird song. It's got the hey, that type of thing in it, and that tune with the harmonica that he plays on is called "Goodbye to Yesterday," and then he also plays on a song I wrote called "The Lion King," which is another sort of political song.
Far out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I was going to say more of those songs coming or less of those political songs coming. We don't know.
Well, I kind of got to the point where I really felt strong about getting these songs out there, and I still do, but I know it pissed some people off too, and I don't want to be like that. And in fact, one of the new songs off of the upcoming project is kind of goes back to that point, and it's about a sort of a shady politician type of thing. And I was listening to it, and I'm like, I should just friggin' either throw this thing out or rewrite it. I mean, I love the groove and where it goes musically, because it's got this cool key change in the middle. And the chorus is, Jesus, let me lose this hate in my heart, which I think is kind of a cool message thing.
Sure.
But then the verses are sort of like, a lot of spite in there. And I don't know. I got to figure that one out. But this one, there's a lot more songs that are guy girl type of songs.
Okay.
And I don't believe, you got to be miserable to write, and you could be happy to write, you could be miserable to write. It's just, the ideas are out there and they come to you, and then it's what do you do? And sometimes it's a fragment of a chorus you get, and you're like, that's worth developing. Sometimes it's a melody or a guitar riff or a key change or a chord change or something, and it's just putting the time in and I guess being disciplined enough to do that. And not everything comes to fruition. Sure. You develop something, you're like, yeah, that's not going nowhere, let's go on to this other idea. But that's what I think of, like, all the gigs I've done and everything, and that's, playing live is still great and everything, but to me, I get the most satisfaction working with a couple people, just doing new music and creating something that hasn't been there before.
Yeah, right. Sure. No, that makes sense to me. You followed in other people's footsteps long enough, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yep. It's kind of your own trail.
Yeah.
After a certain point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Finding your own authentic voice after a while. Yeah. It's kind of the whole point.
Well, and it's right, and there's nothing wrong, or there's nothing, it's not even wrong, but if that's your truth.
Mm-hmm. Only else, you know your truth.
Right. Yeah. What else is there,
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. I love playing live. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's the creativity aspect is just something I really, really get a lot of satisfaction from.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, we've been around. I mean, playing endless gigs will kind of do that to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or not. I mean, some people still enjoy it. But like you say,
but I mean,
you get more and more refined. You get more down to the, like, what is it about this?
Right.
That
I remember when I was doing a lot of gigs towards the end of the 90s when we were playing a lot in the blues bands, you'd play something that was great or amazing, and you'd know it, but then somebody'd come up to you and say, "You play Cold Shot by Stevie Ray Vaughan?"
Right,
It's like, come on, man, just listen to
Yeah.
what we just did here.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And then it's like you come to this, you go through these machinations of, I don't want to be a musical Nazi, meaning people take different things from music. Some people it's lifeblood.
Right.
Other people it's background music. Other people it's like something they can go dance with a girl in a bar for.
Sure.
And I mean that's what makes it great. So I think once I loosened up a little, I kind of was able to just let go a little bit of that sort of zealotry or whatever.
I know what you mean, though. It's tough because you unfortunately, oftentimes, if you're playing those bar gigs, people are not necessarily, they're not buying a ticket to see you.
Right.
You're just part of the vibe.
Yep.
Maybe some people are there to
Yep.
see you. But yeah, I know what you mean. So
Yeah.
you're just kind of like, they're not there to, they don't know what they're seeing
Right.
all the time.
Right. And
Yeah,
some
can be
people need that constant audience,
I did for a while,
Yeah,
for a long
yeah,
time,
and
then
me
you
too.
start to not,
and then you start. You're right, and then you start like, well, what is it that brought me into music? And I think of the, just the harmonies that the Beatles had, or some aspect of music that touched my soul and still touches my soul. I was talking to Matt Ziner a while back when we were working on my last project.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I just was with him on Sunday. We were talking about you.
Okay, yeah. Well, he, somebody that I just love, have the most intense respect for.
Yeah.
He's a monster.
He's a monster.
And every time I bring a batch of songs to him, I'm like, sorry, man, this only got, this or that. And he's like, stop doing that. But somebody like that, and I'm privileged and honored to play with people like that, and Kenny too, and I just said, this is kind of what I came up with, and
sure,
are you able to do something with it? And Matt played on all the Mambo Sun stuff too.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Just
cool,
great, man.
Yeah,
I mean, I did a gig with him. I met him at a gig about 30 years ago or something, and he was really, really young.
Yeah.
But he was like, this guy's like,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like with him, I want to say he's on the top shelf, but I think he's his own shelf. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
It's not even.
Yep.
There's not even a shelf for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had the same experience. I saw him. I was like, "Who's this kid?"
Yeah.
Kind of. I mean, I'm not that much older than him, but still.
Yeah.
He had that impression. I'm just like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Then you
Big Al's mother. That's how.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's and his father Ray. I mean, with
sure.
the Wild Weeds. I mean, that did a lot. But God, anytime I get a chance to see him, I just
Yeah, he's cool. I saw him on Sunday. He took me. Did you go out on his boat? This is his new thing.
I have not. Cool. I've not been out on his boat, but
do the boat.
It's
cool.
My son was doing the crew in Glastonbury for years, and Matt one day posted all these pictures on Facebook of the crew. I said, "That's my kid right there."
Yeah.
But I got to get in touch with him because I got a bunch of stuff that he's really busy with his gig and his musical gig.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just he brings so much to the music too.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's crazy.
I mean, he is a guy like that, and I mean, you're a great drummer. I mean, what do you feel when you go to see drummers? I mean, do you feel? I know with guitar players a lot of times it's like, and I've never been like this, but well, I could have played that better or whatever, or feel like so intimidated by a guy that somebody say like, well, I never want to play again because I saw Jimmy Bell tonight. I said, no, man, that's Jimmy's thing. I said, and that's the great thing about music is we all kind of have our own little.
Well, that's what I think as you get old, as we're old enough.
Yeah,
I've come to appreciate that where you just go like, Yeah, I appreciate people's voice, their unique voice. It's like I had Lorne on, Lorne.
Interest, yeah. Yep.
And like, I love his drumming
Yep.
because he's got his own thing.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
It just, I don't know, but anyway, like I say, I don't think of him as better or not as good at. It's
Right.
just his own
His
choices and his thing. It's just
Right.
like, oh,
Yep.
that's what I like. Anyone that doesn't seem like they're trying to measure up to something and just expressing themselves fully.
Right.
That's what I like as I get older.
Yeah.
So I
I
know what you mean.
I totally.
So those
agree.
are so like you're saying, in a way, you can't be envious of somebody or go, oh, they're better than me, because we're all, like you say, even Jimmy Bell, who's clearly
technologically
beyond,
he's like with Al Di Meola.
but that's his voice.
That's his right.
Just as your voice is yours, and everybody.
And once you get to that point, though, you can enjoy music so much better.
Yeah, agreed.
A couple weeks ago, I ended up seeing it was called the Spompanato Brothers, but it's now just Johnny, and he's got his own band called the Value Leaders.
Okay.
And they were playing just some rockabilly,
Yeah,
some
sure.
great. And I just had pure joy.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
these guys are just riffing away on their Telecasters and having a good time. And I just said to my wife, I said, this is what it's all about.
Yep.
This is just a beautiful thing.
That's cool.
And that's what I like about music right there.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, unique voices.
Yeah.
People, get doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Maybe we have to, like you say, we have to get older, get past a certain point of ranking.
Yeah.
Of that whole attitude.
I think we probably all have gone through stages where we are like, oh, this guy's so much better. Why do I even do this or whatever? But then you get to a point and you're like, screw it. This is what I like.
Sure.
I'm going to be the best Tom Guerra style guitar player and write the best songs that, for me.
Yep. Yeah, no one's going to write your songs better than you do.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
So and you hope that you develop and grow. I mean, I don't really practice guitar technique at this point.
Sure.
I mean, I pick up a guitar, I write, and I'll work on something like that.
Yep.
And hopefully in the course of writing, if you're developing your chordal skills or whatever, or listening to the right music and questioning, why did Brian Wilson do that on this song on Pet Sounds, and kind of figure out that, you can grow that way. So you can grow musically that way. But I think if you can do that and come up with your own thing, and then lead guitar is icing on the cake. It's hey, I love to do a guitar solo, love to hear a guitar solo, but I mean that's the last thing.
Well, like you said from the beginning, your heroes were the kind of the song guys. So there you go.
I always liked Mike Campbell for that reason too, because
Right.
he was like a George Harrison next generation, and playing for the song.
Yep.
So,
but can burn if the song needs him to burn. He'll burn.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you on that. All right. All right. So that's you. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're just gonna keep writing.
I'm gonna keep writing and keep. I got this little guitar thing going on too, where I'll find an old guitar and maybe keep it and maybe flip it. Was doing a lot of that for a lot of years, and so that, and gigs when things get safe again.
Sure.
I mean, I had a bunch of, I don't know, a bunch of opportunities to play gigs, but they were inside in crowded places. And I don't know. So
yeah, I know what you mean.
But yeah, well, keep writing, keep putting my music out there.
Yep.
Keep supporting people that I'm working with, and if they need a guitar player or a collaborator, I love to collaborate with people too.
And the writing gigs, the vintage, still coming in.
Yeah, I got. I just submitted a couple pieces for the next the next edition that are on 2 new pedals and one of these new little Class D amps that's this big, and it's 100-watt amp. You know? And it's I'm usually like an old school tube Marshall Fender guy. This thing sounded amazing.
Really?
And I gave it a really good review, and it's definitely That's what people are doing now. I mean, they're not bringing big stacks. They're not,
Right.
A lot of times they're just bringing these micro amps and plugging into the PA too.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird though, because you got no sound going on stage
Yeah, right.
except for fullback.
Well, in a way, I guess that's kind of the goal.
Yep.
To some scenarios.
And in 2018, I started wearing earplugs too.
Oh, really? Yeah. That'll happen.
Yeah.
That'll happen.
Yeah.
I remember I saw, I went to see, I'm a closet metalhead. I'm a closet everything.
Yeah.
There's nothing but I don't think there's a main room. Everything's a closet. And years ago, I saw Megadeth and Motorhead did a double bill at Mohegan Sun Arena.
Yeah.
And Megadeth was the way you're supposed to do it. There was nothing on stage.
Yep.
Nothing. No cabinets.
Yep.
Nothing. Drums were behind plexiglass.
Yep.
So you're watching the band and you're hearing everything come from the PA. Everything.
Yeah.
You could hear footsteps on the stage.
Yep.
Sound man, perfect mix. I'm like, this is great. They strike, Motorhead comes out, and it stacks, and you're like, okay, so everything's leaking into the vocal mic.
It's just
everything.
a mess,
And I remember, I actually was thinking, in this day and age, how things have changed. It was so loud. I kind of thought to myself, I go, is this legal still? Yeah. Like at Mohegan Sun, I very discreetly let me be cool. Let's see it. Oh, how metal is that, dude? Just kind of like slipped in an earplug. Like, all right, slip in the other one. Because I was like, but that's the way Motorhead sounds. Yeah. Is everything smashing into every. You thought if they were set up like Megadeth,
they'd sound too clean.
It would be terrible.
Yeah,
it's funny.
Yeah, one of the loudest shows I've ever seen in my life, believe it or not, was the Kinks at Toad's Place.
Oh boy,
this was in the early '90s, and oh my God, Dave Davies had a stack of Mesa Boogies that I'm sure he used the last time he went to New Haven, when he was playing the Coliseum.
Yeah, he didn't check. Yeah.
So he comes out with his Les Paul and he plugs in, just does like a test the amp, and it's like instant Maxell ad. Ooh. Everybody is like, and I was right in front of him, and but it was probably top 3 rock and roll shows ever.
Really?
Oh, it was just amazing show. Yeah,
I bet.
But loudest.
Hit me with a couple other memorable shows for you.
Yeah. One of my favorite shows, I haven't really mentioned Ian Hunter of Mott the Hoople, but a huge Mott fan going way back.
Okay.
I flew to London in 2009 when they got back together. October 1st, 2009 at Hammersmith. That was one of the top shows, but the first time I saw Ian Hunter was at Toad's Place. I was 17. I snuck in with my brother's fake ID. He was right in front of me, so he did one of these deals. And I met Mick Ronson was with him,
great.
and talked to Mick Ronson a little bit. And I'm like, hey, Mick, I play guitar. He's like, oh, that's great. We're both guitar players,
Yeah.
But it was a fantastic show. And in the middle of the show, I'm like right in front of Mick, and I got a little Fender medium pick. I hold it up. He takes it, gives me his pick, and starts playing with my pick. It was like,
that's great.
I'm not worthy,
Wow.
So that was a great show. Buddy Guy. I'm a big blues fan, and first time I saw BB was at Bushnell Park in '82. That was a great show. I'd seen Buddy Guy 5 or 6 times, and he's wildly, and I love him, but he's wildly inconsistent.
Sure.
But the time I saw him at Toad's Place, which was probably 25 years ago, he was the best guitar player on the planet that night. You just like
yeah.
He was great.
That's cool.
So many good shows. Petty, the Heartbreakers. Bunch of times saw them. The Crows. Bands like that. I saw Ronnie Wood at Toads, was great.
Oh, nice.
Some of the blues shows, like a few of the Ronnie Earl shows I've seen have been fantastic.
Yep.
NRBQ shows have been great.
Sure.
I got to open for them.
Did you ever see the Ramones?
Never saw the Ramones.
I never did either.
No, the closest they came was they played the old Agora Ballroom in West Hartford. But I think I had a gig or something. I wanted to see them. Love the Ramones.
Yeah, me
love punk stuff. Clash, Pistols.
Sure.
When I heard the Pistols album for the first time, it was like, and all my friends were into metal, and I was kind of into metal too. But I heard that first Pistols album, and my first reaction is, I can smell their hideous breath through the speakers, because it's just so nasty and in your face, But that's what a great period for music, and I like the earliest Clash stuff the best, the first 3 albums. So
Yeah.
so those are
that.
some shows that I've seen that have been great. I'm sure there's so many others. I'm like, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, right. Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's why we do this again.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
'cause we can't possibly get to every single thing.
Yeah.
Well, you almost kind of already answered the questions. Desert Island album.
Yeah.
Are you a practicer? You are. See, people gotta. See, you came prepared, and that kind of ruins it.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
But I've already changed. I mean, I already have other ones.
Right,
but
right.
But you
Yeah,
could
I
ask
know,
me
me
that
too.
question
Sure.
every day, and
Sure.
I'd give you a different one.
Yep. I
you know,
agree. Yep.
It's I look at my favorite bands and the Stones. I'd
Sure.
say Exile, Main Street.
Sure.
Because it's a double, so you get sort of the nuts and berries in there.
Yep.
And boy, there's so many great albums.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Dylan's last couple studio albums.
Oh, yeah.
Rough and Rowdy Ways is just amazing.
Okay.
And
I'll
then
have to check it out.
yeah, that was the one where he has the Murder Most Foul, the tune about JFK, which is
Okay.
like a 15-minute.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not a song. It's
Yeah,
like
it's like a history
It's
lesson.
it's a novel. Yeah.
Excuse me. Sorry.
But his last studio album before that, Tempest, I love that album. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually covered a tune from there called Pain Blood a couple albums ago, and I kind of got a rock and roll version of that tune. I always wanted to cover a Dylan tune. I'm thinking about covering another one too. But the thing is, you gotta cover a tune that's not already imprinted on people's heads.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
You could never I Watchtower again.
Right,
I mean,
right.
even when Dylan does that, he does it as
Sure.
a tribute to Hendrix. I mean,
Sure. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that happens.
but maybe Blood on the Tracks or Desire are great albums.
Mm-hmm.
Blonde on Blonde's a great album. So there's a lot of Dylan that would be on that Desert Island. If I could have a Desert Island list of songs versus just one album.
Yeah. Sure. Well, you can, because this whole thing's made up. There's
Yeah,
no Desert
yeah.
Island. There's no.
So we didn't talk about the Byrds, but I love the Byrds
Oh,
stuff too.
nice.
Just that 12-string thing.
Yeah. Far out.
Neil Young. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep. I hear you. Yep.
Yeah.
We're right in the same
yeah.
zone. The food question. I'm not even going to say it because you know what it is. If you had to eat one type of food or one food item, if you were limited, and there were no consequences.
Can it be a broad category?
Sure.
It'd be Italian food, but
Right.
which in my house is just called food.
Right.
But I love I love seafood. I love
Sure.
anything that's got a good pasta and a good sauce. And
Yeah.
grandparents,
Sure.
grandma used to make the greatest sauce, and she's
No, my grandma did.
cavatelli. Yeah, right,
We all.
right. But yeah, that's it would probably be that. I mean, I started to get really into Asian food.
Oh, cool.
So I like that too as well. But again, it's so situational and subjective. I mean, it's like
Right.
some days it would be eggs. I mean,
Right,
whatever,
right. Well, that's okay.
So
That's what we do, I guess.
yeah,
Because if you just cover a lot of ground. So like you
Yeah.
say, it depends on what day you ask.
yeah.
It's the way it should be, I would imagine.
Yeah.
That's the way I think it is. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to get into?
No, just
real quick?
want to thank you
Oh,
very much for having me.
Hey, nope, of course. No, I'm glad because this is also, sometimes I get people I know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get people I don't know,
Yeah.
and it's fun because we never get to hang out.
Yeah.
And it's just good.
It's gone by really quickly too, and I was like, geez, what am I going to talk about for an hour?
You did fine.
Yeah.
Perfect. Beautiful. That's
Great.
Cool. All right. Tom Guerra, guitar player, singer, songwriter, writer of articles.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and things.
Yeah.
Right.
Checks too.
Writer of checks.
Yes.
Great. I'd love one. That'd be great.
All right. It'll be
Awesome.
in the mail.
Yeah. Tom Guerra, boys and girls. John Peckman Podcast, Connecticut Valley School of Music and Dance Podcast Studio, lovely downtown Portland, Connecticut. Come over to Bridge, start looking left. Tom Guerra was here. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Very nice. Subscribe and like on YouTube or listen for us on every single God-given platform that there is that carry podcasts. Thank you. I'll see you.
If you'd like to start your own podcast, give us a call at Connecticut Valley School of Music and Dance. Our professionally designed podcast space is here for all your recording needs. Rent out our studio to do interviews with up to 4 people, to record audiobooks, social media content, and all other recorded material. Our rentals include a private studio along with our professional-grade podcasting equipment, and we can customize your output to whatever your needs are. We also have green screen capabilities, which will expand to video capability if you so wish. So check us out here at convalley.net/podcast.